Hey, this is Matt Barnes, Creative Director of No Obstacles. Today I'm going to teach you how to paint your very own pair of custom KOs. So a lot of you guys have dropped in the comment section below some of the photographs of the shoes that I've done. Where do I get the paint? How do I paint my own shoes? We've actually been working for the past year to develop the absolute best paint for custom KOs. It's durable. The key thing is it's also flexible and it's actually waterproof once it dries. Inside each one of these bottles in the cap there's actually a brush, so you have everything that you need to get started. It comes in the primary colors, black and white, so you can mix it up for any color that you want. I like to start out with a pair of flat gray shoes because it's actually a nice medium color, whether you're doing light or dark or that sort of thing. But before we get started, I'll show you some examples of stuff I've done. Here's some I made earlier. See here, this is sort of my around town pair, my little bit of crazy action pair. And like I said, your imagination is the limit, and I'm going to show you how to do it here in just a second. Alright, so getting started, I have my shoe here, of course, some fingernail polish remover, nail clippers, rubbing alcohol, some cups and brushes that I'm going to use to help me paint because I've done a million of these things and I find it kind of helps. The paint, of course, and some paper towel to help us along with the process. You'll notice I've removed the laces from the shoe. They're just going to get in the way. You can put them in later, but you don't need them here at the beginning. So to get started here, we have our upper portion of the shoe, which actually has a little bit of a layer on it that protects it, but we need to remove this in order for the paint to adhere properly. That's a tip that's super important. So to do that, we're going to take our paper towel here and a little bit of nail polish remover. You just want to give it a once over here on the shoe with one bit, but the thing is that what you're taking off is actually going to be on the paper towel, so you should flip it over and use the other side. You don't want to use the same piece for the whole thing, or you're just going to smear it all around, even though you can't really kind of see it and it's not that thick. Alright, so the nail clippers, where this comes into play is occasionally there'll be a little fiber or two that sticks out, and while that's not really a huge issue with regard to wearing the shoes, you can get paint on those and that's kind of annoying. I like to start out by painting the mesh on the side because it's a little tricky, and if you kind of get paint on the edges here, the great thing is once it dries, you can actually paint over the paint. It's actually really kind of easy. The reason I have the rubbing alcohol here is if you get paint on a zone that you don't really want it and you need to clean it up real fast, if you take one of these pieces of paper towel or a cotton swab or something, you can actually use the rubbing alcohol while it's wet to sort of get the paint off in the area you don't want it. There's two layers to the mesh, and I like to paint just on this outside layer but not on the inside one, because if you paint on the inside one it kind of bleeds through and the paint gets thick, so you kind of have to be careful about it. You don't want too much paint on your brush. And as I get up here close to the edge, I'm just going to be real kind of gentle and just push the paint up to the edge. I've got my blue mesh portion here. You can see I painted over the KO, no big deal. We'll paint black over that later. It's key that you want to let this dry before you start messing with it, because as you start gripping around the shoe, you're going to get paint all over your hands. You see here I got the toe nice and blue. It starts out like a different color kind of blue, and I wanted the Spider-Man-y kind of blue, so you can be really kind of generous with the amount of paint that you put on there to make sure that lighter color of blue doesn't bleed through. Do it in a couple coats if you need to, that sort of thing, but you'll sort of get the idea. And I can see I've started with my red here, and I'm using my fine brush, but of course the brush inside of your paint cap will totally work. And the key for this is making sure that you get right up along the edges here and kind of push the paint towards those areas that you don't want to get paint on. Another thing to mention is this little lace area right here. I'm going to be very careful with the lace area because if you touch the red paint to that, sometimes it can soak it up. I never actually paint those little gaps in between the laces, but you can't, you probably couldn't even tell on some of the other things. It just gives it kind of a nice pop, but you can paint over if you want, I suppose. So yeah, so key to this, nice long strokes so that you don't really see your brush strokes in the whole thing. Alright, so now I've made my way around the toe, over the bridge, and I'm coming up the side, and I wanted to point out this little bit here. So a nice way for me to tell if I have gotten enough paint on the shoe is once I can no longer see that. So it shows through totally on the first coat. By the time you get to the second coat, or a very light third one to go over that area, then it'll completely disappear and you'll be all set. Alright, so we've got our side done here. I've come along the side and back around here, and this is another kind of critical area where you got to be very careful. I really push back with my thumb to get in this nice tiny area here without getting paint all over the white. And same deal, you got to be really careful going along here so you don't get any on the stitches. So we're really coming around here. We've got the tongue covered up. I like to go around the outside edges and then fill in. It's just way easier. And you'll notice I haven't filled in the WFPF logo because I'm actually going to, you know, in true Spider-Man sort of thing, this is going to end up being black. So I don't want to really paint the same area twice if I don't have to. Then I just got to kick around, hit these side panels of blue, and then same thing with the heel, that'll be blue as well. So we're almost there with our first coat. We've pretty much completed the whole shoe. The only thing that we have left is to do the black detailing here and on the KO. And then I'm also going to do it on the heel. Alright, so we got our black emblem up here and our black KO on the side and on the heel. And so we're just going to go ahead and let this dry, and then I'm going to go back and add the second or maybe third coat if it takes it, and touch up some of this stuff around here. And of course I'll post some pictures and everything, but I think that gives you a general idea of how to paint a pair of custom KOs. Alright, so we've painted a pair of custom KOs. I'm going to go ahead and put a second coat on this guy, but in the meantime, check out the description below. We got links for the paint, the shoes, the template, the whole 9 yards. We got new hats and tank tops in the store today, so go check all that out. It's all brand new. Drop me a comment below in the comments section if you have any questions or anything like that. I'll do my best to answer it. Maybe we'll do a part 2 to the tutorial video. But in the meantime, have fun with it. We'll run some contests or something like that, and we'll catch you guys later.